The clash between Miss Nell and Miss Wanda on Love and Marriage Huntsville was not just another loud argument or a quick, heated moment meant for television. From the moment their conversation shifted, it became clear that something deeper was unfolding. This was not casual shade or playful disagreement. It was a serious breakdown of respect, boundaries, and emotions that had clearly been building for a long time. Viewers were not watching two women simply raise their voices. They were watching years of pride, protection, and frustration spill out in real time. At first, the conversation did not feel dangerous. It began around the men arguing, a topic that has come up many times on the show. The tone was firm, but still controlled. However, there was an energy in the room that felt uneasy. Small changes in body language, the way voices slightly rose, and the way eye contact became sharper, all hinted that this discussion was heading somewhere personal. When Miss Wanda made a comment involving another woman's husband, the atmosphere instantly changed. That was the moment where the line was crossed. In the world of Love and Marriage Huntsville, talking about someone's marriage is never small. It is never just talk. It is tied to respect, loyalty, and family pride. Miss Nell's reaction was quick and raw. She did not pause to soften her words. She said what she felt, and she said it with force. Her statement about the husband needing to be checked was not just about one man's behavior. It was about accountability and about who has the right to speak on someone else's household. Miss Wanda, however, did not react the same way. She appeared calm, almost dismissive. To her, what she said was acceptable. She did not see her comment as crossing a boundary. Instead, she stood firmly in her belief that she had every right to say it. This difference in perspective is where the situation truly began to break down. Miss Nell was not only reacting to the words themselves, she was reacting to what those words represented. To her, it felt like someone stepping into her family space and refusing to step back when asked. When Miss Wanda responded with the comment about Miss Nell's daughter checking the man, the conversation shifted completely. At that point, the men no longer mattered. The argument became about children, respect, and family limits. For many parents, bringing children into adult conflict is one of the most serious boundaries that can be crossed. Miss Nell's frustration was clear. Her response showed that she felt her family was being pulled into drama they did not create. Her anger did not feel staged or exaggerated for the cameras. It felt real. When she said she was angry, there was no attempt to hide it or polish it. This was someone reacting from a place of deep emotion. It was the kind of anger that comes when you feel disrespected, dismissed, and challenged all at once. In contrast, Miss Wanda showed no signs of backing down. She repeated that she did not care, making it clear that she was standing her ground. This moment highlighted the core difference between these two women. Miss Nell comes from a place of protection. Her focus is on guarding her family and maintaining respect. Miss Wanda comes from a place of dominance and blunt honesty. She speaks her mind without worrying about how it lands. Neither approach is entirely right or wrong on its own, but when those two approaches collide, conflict is almost guaranteed. As the argument continued, it became obvious that the original topic had been completely lost. Someone even pointed out that the discussion had shifted from the men arguing to the women arguing. That observation said everything. What started as commentary had turned into confrontation. At that point, there was no easy way to pull things back. There was also a sense that inviting Miss Wanda into the conversation may not have been the best choice. At first, it may have seemed helpful, but as the exchange continued, regrets became visible. Miss Nell's body language suggested she wanted to slow things down, to regain control, and to bring the conversation back to a calmer place. It felt like she realized the situation had gone further than she intended. Trying to manage a conversation when emotions are already high is difficult. Trying to do it when someone refuses to soften their stance makes it nearly impossible. Miss Wanda's reputation for being outspoken and unapologetic is well known. That quality makes for strong television, but it also makes moments like this explode quickly. There is little room for compromise when one person refuses to bend. The moment where Miss Nell clearly stated that her children were off limits was a turning point. That was not just anger. It was a clear boundary being drawn. She was saying that no matter what issues existed between adults, her children were not part of it. That line matters deeply to many parents, and it resonated strongly with viewers watching at home. Miss Wanda's response showed that she did not agree with how Miss Nell expressed her anger. She seemed to believe that anger did not justify certain reactions. This difference in belief only widened the gap between them. At that stage, the conversation was no longer about understanding. It was about standing firm. What made this clash hit so hard for viewers is how familiar it felt. Many people have experienced family arguments where emotions take over and words are said that cannot be taken back. The scene reflected real-life situations where pride and hurt feelings push conversations past the point of repair. That realism is what made the moment uncomfortable but powerful. Miss Wanda has always been a polarizing figure. Some viewers admire her honesty and fearlessness. Others feel she crosses too many lines and inserts herself where she does not belong. Miss Nell, on the other hand, is often quieter but no less strong. When pushed, she does not back down. This clash was not just personal, it was a clash of values and beliefs. As the argument continued, it became clear that no one was going to win. Raised voices, repeated profanity, and refusal to step back all showed that the damage was already done. Once certain words are spoken, there is no easy way to undo them. Relationships change in moments like these, whether people admit it or not. After the scene aired, viewers quickly took sides. Social media filled with debates about who was right and who was wrong. Some praised Miss Nell for defending her family. Others defended Miss Wanda's right to speak freely. The divide was sharp, and it showed how deeply the moment affected people watching. Not every argument on reality television feels real. Many are exaggerated or encouraged by producers. This one felt different. It felt unplanned and emotional. It felt like two people reacting without filters. That authenticity is rare, and it is why this moment will be remembered. At its core, this clash was about respect. Respect for marriages, respect for children, and respect for personal boundaries. When those things are threatened, emotions rise quickly. Miss Nell's anger came from feeling that her family had been pulled into unnecessary drama. Miss Wanda's defiance came from her refusal to be silenced or corrected. There was no clear winner, and there rarely is in conflicts like this. What remains is a powerful example of how fast conversations can spiral when emotions take control. Love and Marriage Huntsville captured a raw and honest moment that showed what happens when respect breaks down. This was not just a fight. It was a moment of truth. It revealed vulnerabilities, hardened positions, and lasting impact. Whether viewers side with Miss Nell or Miss Wanda, there is no denying that this clash left a mark. In reality television, moments like this are rare, and that is exactly why this one stands out. What also stood out in this moment was how quickly pride took control of the conversation. Once pride steps in, listening usually steps out. Both women felt challenged, and neither wanted to appear weak or silent. That is often how conversations shift from discussion to confrontation. Instead of trying to understand each other, the focus becomes defending one's position. That is exactly what happened here. Ms. Nell's reactions showed someone who felt cornered emotionally. She was not just responding to words being spoken in that moment. She was responding to how those words made her feel as a mother and as a woman. Feeling like your child has been dragged into adult conflict can trigger a deep emotional response. That type of reaction is not about logic. It is about instinct. Protect first, explain later. Ms. Wanda, on the other hand, did not show any signs of emotional retreat. Her repeated statements made it clear that she believed she had done nothing wrong. In her mind, being honest was more important than being careful. This is where the deeper issue lies. One woman values restraints when it comes to family. The other values freedom of speech no matter the outcome. These two views do not mix well, especially in emotionally charged settings. Another important detail in this clash was the lack of mediation. No one stepped in early enough to slow the conversation down. By the time others realized the situation had gone too far, the damage was already done. This shows how quickly conversations can spiral when emotions rise and no one takes control. There was also an unspoken tension tied to history. Both women come into the situation with reputations that shape how others respond to them. Ms. Wanda is expected to speak bluntly. Ms. Nell is expected to hold her ground when pushed. These expectations can make conflict worse because people feel locked into roles they believe they must play. The moment also highlighted how difficult it is to separate personal feelings from public discussion on reality television. Cameras change the environment. People become more aware of how they appear, which can make them dig deeper into their positions instead of stepping back. Pride and image can become just as important as the actual issue being discussed. What made the argument uncomfortable for many viewers was how real it felt. There were no clever comebacks or rehearsed lines. There was no sense of performance. It felt like watching a family disagreement unfold without warning. That rawness is not easy to watch, but it is also what makes the show relatable to so many people. Another layer to this moment is the generational difference between the two women. Their approaches to conflict reflect different beliefs about respect and communication. One believes that respect means knowing when to stop. The other believes respect means saying what needs to be said, regardless of discomfort. These beliefs often clash in families, especially when emotions are already high. As the argument progressed, the energy in the room became heavier. Silence between statements felt loud. The pauses carried tension. Everyone present seemed aware that the conversation had crossed the point of no return. Once children were mentioned and emotions flared, there was no clean exit. This is where the lasting impact comes in. Even when arguments end, feelings do not disappear. Words replay in people's minds. Apologies, if they come, often struggle to heal the initial wound. This moment likely changed how these women see each other going forward, whether they admit it or not. Viewers watching at home connected to this because many have lived similar moments. Conversations that start small and turn personal. Comments that feel harmless to one person but deeply hurtful to another. Moments where anger speaks before thought. These experiences are common, which is why this scene sparked such strong reactions. The online response proved how powerful the moment was. People were not just commenting casually, they were debating, defending, and reflecting. Some saw Ms. Nell as a mother pushed too far. Others saw Ms. Wanda as someone unwilling to be silenced. The fact that opinions were so divided shows how layered the situation truly was. It is also important to note that reality television often thrives on conflict, but not all conflict carries meaning. This one did. It revealed how fragile respect can be and how quickly it can break when boundaries are ignored. It also showed how difficult it is to repair damage once emotions take control. In the end, no clear resolution was shown. There was no moment where both women came to an understanding. That lack of closure is part of why the scene feels unfinished. It leaves viewers thinking, discussing, and replaying the moment long after it aired. This clash serves as a reminder that words carry weight, especially when spoken in anger. It also reminds us that protecting family is deeply personal, and not everyone agrees on where lines should be drawn. When those differences collide, even small conversations can explode. Love and Marriage Huntsville captured something real in this exchange. It was messy, uncomfortable, and honest. It was not about winning an argument. It was about how easily respect can slip away when emotions rise and pride takes over. Ms. Nell and Ms. Wanda did not just argue. They exposed the consequences of speaking without listening and reacting without pausing. That is why this moment continues to be discussed. It was not just television drama. It was a reflection of real-life conflict played out in front of millions. And that is what makes this clash unforgettable.